Welcome. This is a Finance Committee meeting of the Corporation of the Municipality of Central Elgin. It's Monday, March the 17th at 3 o'clock here in the council chambers, as well as virtually. We welcome those here as well as online. Do any of the committee have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, moving forward, we have a delegation. We have Ed Finland and Angela Homewood who are here with concerns related to the proposed Erie Rest Beach parking lot. If I could have you come forward, please, and reminder to use your microphone so that people that are joining virtually. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you very much, committee. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start off and then Angela's going to come up. I know we have 10 minutes, so we'll be quick. Thanks everyone for your time. This Erie Rest parking lot was raised 5 years ago, and I provided a letter to all members from Paula Lombardi, Siskin's lawyer, environmental lawyer. And in that lawyer, she indicates a number of reasons why the parking lot expansion to Erie Rest Beach would cause irreversible impacts on the natural environment. She sets out the term precautionary principle, measures to be taken when an activity raises threats of harm to the environment, wildlife, and human health. It's a flooding area. We've retained another environmental lawyer, Alex Ciccone. You may know that name, from Guelph. He's drafting another letter that supports the same letter that you got 5 years ago. I guess the frustration that I will state out is why we're here again when we raised this and stopped this process 5 years ago. And we're going to ask Angela to come up and speak a little more towards the environment. She's been and has worked with the Ministry of Environment for something like 40 years, I think, and she has some good points to make. Thank you very much. I'll ask Angela.
Thank you, Ed. Welcome, Angela.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm going to stand back a bit. So I'm here today to talk about the environmental side of things. I'm not directly impacted. I am not adjacent to where the proposed parking lot is, but I am in the neighborhood of that area. So I'm here today to speak to you about trying to get some clarity on some items. There's a lot of things flying around, and because of my background as a retired provincial officer, I'm all about getting the facts and getting the true information. So I understand that an environmental assessment has not been completed for this project. There's a natural dynamic beach ecosystem there where piping plover nest, which is an endangered species under the provincial and federal Endangered Species Act. So that is a real concern when you look at the North Shore of Lake Erie as an area that is identified as a nesting habitat for the piping plover. From the perspective of, allowing the public and residents to be able to consult on that, the municipalities are required to follow the Environmental Assessment Act and to provide that opportunity to members of the public, residents, and all interested parties. From my understanding, that has not occurred with this process, which is another major flaw in that process. In addition, there's technical studies that were interested in finding out information. I read on Facebook last night that there was a study done by Dillon Consulting on the traffic study for the 112 spot parking lot back in the day. I'm not sure if there's been a more recent study on that, but what is the actual size of the parking lot? Is it 112? Is it 58? There's, again, would like some clarity on that. Is there first phase to be 58, second phase to be 112? So again, clarity is really needed because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we want to make sure that it's very clear what's being proposed. Another key point is the riparian rights of this project. So currently that creates, that area there is a double dune system, as they call it. It creates stormwater protection for the natural habitat, for the residents and neighbors that are adjacent to that area. And are there any riparian risk management measures being taken, as well as dune management? So there's a lot of questions being circulated that people don't have the answers to the questions. As well, is there a stormwater infiltration pond or a bladder system being proposed for the parking lot? Again, removing this double dune system is going to create increased flooding. When we had high water levels in the Great Lakes a couple years ago, that whole area got flooded to the point where neighbors west of the existing parking lot got flooding and were very concerned. I understand the municipality installed a stormwater pipe to take that water out to the lake, which I can tell you, I'm pretty sure did not get any approvals from the Ministry of Environment to be able to do that. So those are a couple of things that I guess I just wanted to raise. I didn't want to take up too much of your time. And I guess just on a closing note, I do a lot of presentations to federal and municipal levels of government. I am a consultant. I do work for the federal government. Ports Toronto is my main client. They are an agency, a government business enterprise under Transport Canada. So I do a lot of work in Toronto, in the Portlands, and failing dock walls seem to be a big issue right now. I've probably done about 10 of those projects in the last 11 years, and I think that there's a lot better opportunities for the municipality to look at repairing and taking seriously some of the concerns with failing infrastructure to ensure that those costs are not incurred into the future. There's businesses like the commercial fishing that rely on that in this village. There's businesses all along the dock wall that rely on the dock walls being in existence and being in place. And I would suggest that from my experience over the last 10 years, that infrastructure failures are a big concern for municipalities right now. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. I'll ask the committee if they have questions, but in advance of that, I believe we have through the budget, when it comes to the dock walls, we're doing an assessment of that that's going to be done in 2025. Is that correct? Okay. So there's a fair amount that's been put aside for establishing or understanding what the challenges are there. So a good point as always. Questions from the committee for Angela or Ed? Seeing none, thank you. We will take your information under advisement as we go forward. As you know, this is a opportunity for us to put allotment into the budget for what we plan to do in 2025. Correct me if I'm wrong, the decision ultimately will go to the full council. Ms. Hurd, if you wanted to comment, please.
That is correct. So today, as committee, we'll be considering the final budget recommendation for final approval at council next Monday on the 24th.
Just if you want to come forward, Ed, so we can hear you, please.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say one more thing that I would like the committee to consider. This thing hit Facebook page over the weekend. Some of the folks wrote in, and there's been a huge response to this. I just want people to be aware of the very serious concerns the neighbors, the neighborhood, and the people of Port Stanley have about this project. So please read them, see the comments. We'll be back here on the 24th. There may be a lineup of people here, and I'll be doing another presentation about why this should not go forward. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ed. And I will make sure that everyone gets an idea of some of the online comments, and I'm happy to talk to you again or hear your thoughts on the 24th.
Thank you. And there will be a legal letter coming from our environmental lawyer. I'll have that here. I'll get it to you before the 24th so you have it. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to Angela. Item number 2 on the agenda is the proposed 2025 budget. Mr. Jensen. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So we do have a short slide deck to hopefully wrap up the budget deliberations. We're going to go through some of the changes from round 2 to round 3, show you where we're at from a residential perspective on any changes that may impact them. And then we'll finish up this meeting with water and wastewater rates, the discussion. So Okay, round three highlights. So my apologies, but the first item needs to be changed. So the Little Beach increased porta potty cleaning. Staff's recommending option one, where we increase cleaning to 4 cleanings per week, specifically on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. The incremental cost of that is 17,500. So not 30,000, but 17,500. Okay, George Street sidewalk, we added $29,224 from tax levy to support that project. We found savings in Lions Landing. We decreased that from 58,000 to 12,000 by reducing the amount of paving to 15 meters. And we did find $13,259 by truing up the interest earned on reserves. So as the slide shows, there is no impact to round two tax rate, still proposing a 0% tax rate increase. The difference between the 30,035 and the 17,500 that we just spoke about will put the difference into the infrastructure reserve. Okay, so there will still be no impact to taxes. Non-tax levy updates, Erie Rest parking lot expansion, that cost did increase from 77,000 to 92,000 due to increased engineering fees. We're proposing taking the other 15,000 out of the parking reserve. We were to look into the feasibility study for Little Beach washrooms. Lots of calls were made, but that is still under investigation with no update at this point in time.
Can I ask, just sorry to interrupt for a sec, but with respect to the George Street sidewalk, can you tell me the parameters for that? Where is it from where to where? Is it right there? Oh, okay, well, I guess I should alert the page. That's fine, thank you.
Okay, so Little Beach, just to give you a bit of, I wanted to pull the capital sheet out so that you could see it here because it's not included in your original budget binder. So lots of comments up there, but what we tried to do was highlight the blue font, which I think we've already talked about. It does expand servicing to 4 days per week on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, and Sundays. And the option between 1 and 2 is the full season versus just 4 months. Staff is recommending the 4 months. That's where visitors tend to be the most important, Stanley, from June to September. So again, that cost is not 30,035, it's 17,500. Is that right, Jeff? Oh, sorry, 13,500. Okay, so yes, okay. The 17,500 is the original cost for cleaning, and it is already in the original operating budget. My apologies. The incremental cost is 13,500, or the difference between those two numbers. Okay. Isn't it fun starting off a finance meeting with just lots of different numbers? Okay, we can come back to that if you have any other questions. George Street sidewalk, the Capitol. So the shaded part there represents the sidewalk. Estimated cost is 68,000 plus contingency, brings it up to 76,000. Funding will come from basically the 29,000 from tax levy that we just spoke about and 47,000 from infrastructure reserves.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor, just one question about the sidewalk. I thought there was a bit of talk that there was going to be some work in that area down the road. Is that sidewalk going to be tore up again?
Mr. Brooks, that was brought up at the last meeting that it was originally considered for 26 because of potential construction. If you wanted to comment, thank you.
Through you, Mayor Sloan, that's correct. And it would still be staff's recommendation that although it's recognized that this sidewalk is required, that this project be delayed to the 2026 budget until staff can determine what the limits of reconstruction would be through the DMAF project on George Street. By constructing the sidewalk now, it would require one of either two things. It would either require partial removal of this sidewalk potentially, or it would hamstring the municipality's ability to change the grade on that road when we reconstruct it, because we would be trying to match that sidewalk. We have a steep kind of slope heading up that road now. So if we're able to do a design through reconstruction, it would allow us to potentially drop that road a little bit and construct the sidewalk at the same time.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, please.
Through you, Mayor, is there a temporary lower cost option to kind of look after this for to help out the residents for the short term without redoing that? It doesn't make sense for us to put a sidewalk down and then tear it up a year later. I don't see anybody being super excited about that. I know I wouldn't.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks, please.
I don't believe there's a short-term fix for the problem. What could potentially be done is looking at that little piece of sidewalk on the west side of Front Street. My understanding is there's some kids waiting for the school bus at that intersection potentially. That little piece on the west side of Front Street could potentially be constructed without any major impacts to any future construction.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee on that? Councillor Graham, please.
Through you to Mr. Brooks. So if we could, how much would it, do we have an approximate ballpark figure of what it would cost to, even if you, I mean, because from the picture, it looks like it's just barely coming to the bottom. And then when we went out with your staff to see it, with Cindy to see it, does it have to curl around a little bit more to provide ample space for them to stand? And what ballpark cost would that little piece be?
I'm just ballparking the number, but I'm going to guess probably around 10,000 to construct that little piece over on that side.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next slide. So before we go into water and wastewater, we thought we'd show you where the average residential monthly cost would come in. So the top portion there, calculating property taxes on an average assessed value of 278,000. I know that number seems low, but that is from 2016. MPAC hasn't updated the assessed values as of yet. So Central Elgin share of total taxes to an average residential household would be 2324, and that's with a 0% tax increase. Elgin County, I understand they approved a 1.49% tax increase. So you can see there on Elgin County, the portion of the taxes would increase from 1902 to 1931. And school board, to the best of my knowledge, as of today, there's no tax increase on school boards. So the total property tax bill would increase from 4652 to 4680, or 0.61% when you combine all three of them together. When we look at a monthly cost, 2024 would be 387 versus 2025 at 390. So now I wanted to add in water and wastewater, which will be a segue to our next discussion. If we went ahead with a no increase to water and water rates, that charge would remain the same, obviously. Wastewater, from the last discussion, we built the slide using the proposed increase on base rate only from 40 to 44. That would, you see there, the monthly increase would change from 148 to 151.63. Total combined monthly for the average resident would change from 535.97 to 541, or an increase of $68 per year. Please keep in mind that does include the Elgin County increase on taxes as well. So, okay.
Question from the Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor. So the increase just on the wastewater, if we're just talking wastewater, Mr. Jensen, what's the increase proposed for the wastewater per year?
Through you, Mr. Chair. It would be the difference between $44.17 and $40.84 on the base charge. We're not proposing any change on variable, and that is per month. Roughly half of that would be due to wastewater. Okay. Okay, so this segment,
Sorry, Councillor Graham.
Sorry, Dave, just to go back a little bit. So the yearly increase is 67.96, and it looks like the Elgin County yearly increase was $29. Is that correct?
through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct for Elgin County. They're 39.96 for the year. 39.96. Wastewater.
Sorry, wasn't there talk that we were going to even that out between water and wastewater in our last finance committee meeting?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that was an option. It's not reflected in this chart, but it is an option.
So do you have those numbers for us as well?
Yeah,
Just so I have clarification, is Councillor, are you asking that it be split between water and wastewater?
No, so when we were in the last finance meeting and we were talking about how they're recommending that wastewater be increased, the wastewater cost be increased, whereas we're in a good spot with water, a not so great spot with wastewater. So we were talking about, Dave, you can probably explain it better. Thanks.
the proposal at the last committee meeting that we had was Councillor Graham had asked if we were to increase wastewater, what we would need to decrease water by to offset the increase. And we do have those numbers. Okay, I guess I should have put this up on a slide. So if I can just talk through this, hopefully. So if we use 2023 rates for water, yeah, but that's not the break even that Councillor Graham's asking about. So if we use 2023 rates, which is what we were billing at for both 2023 and 2024, the average homeowner is paying for both water and wastewater $148.30. And that's based on 11.8 cubic meters of water consumption per month. if we wanted to maintain the $148.30 a month, we could reduce the water base rate from $36.19 per month to $32.03 per month. Or we could leave the base rate alone and reduce the per meter variable charge. Wait a minute. Part of your option, Councillor Graham, was to bring the base charge back to 2022 rate. So if we did bring the base charge back to 2022 rate, then that means the base rate would be $32.31, which is a decrease from the current $36.19. But we would have to change the variable rate from $3.19 to $3.24. We would increase that to maintain the same $148.30 per month. So I guess what I'm saying is we have a choice. We can, if the committee wanted to stay on a break even, we could either change the base rate or we could change the per meter charge on water. And we can maintain the $148.30 per month.
If you put the amount for water, you'd have to be putting it up.
No, water would come down to create savings to offset the extra charge on wastewater.
Thank you.
Okay. So yes, that is an option. It's Delaney. We'll just get the slide a little bit bigger so that I can actually see it. No go? Okay, that's all right. We can work with this. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Maybe I could ask Alex to come up and give me a break and talk about comparable rates, which was a request from the committee at the last meeting. So Alex, over to you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Dave. So we always try to compare ourselves to different municipalities that are a similar size with us. We looked at all our neighboring municipalities here in Elgin County and some of the municipalities in Middlesex County. So you kind of see where we sit there. But the interesting thing that we found when we're looking at the different rates is municipalities have different charges for it. It's not always just water, wastewater charges there. So particularly when you look at the municipality of Middlesex Center there, they charge a life cycle reserve fund of $1,854 a month and a wastewater infrastructure fund of $1,988. Those are considered in their municipality other charges, but in essence, in our way we structure it, it is part of the chart there. So when we look at where we sit comparably, we're still showing our 2023 rates, but we're floating kind of to the upper end of the scale there. But when you look at the rates between us here, the range, like when you look at Southwest Middlesex, they're $1,808 per year. And then if you go down to the city of St. Thomas, they're $1,097 a year. So we're within that range there. If you look at the cluster there, there's a good grouping of us. Of course, our friends to the west here, or sorry, the east township of Malahide, they're a little higher than us. And then at the other end of the scale is the town of Elmer. So that's kind of the comparators of our rates.
Thank you, Alex. I have a question. When it comes into the stats that you have here, so if you look at St. Thomas at 541, approximately 1,000 and something, does that include their increase for 2024 or for 2025?
Yeah, these are showing their 2025 rates. So
Perfect.
Staff actually went around and where it wasn't published on the website or it wasn't clear, they actually contacted the staff just to get the clarifications as to how their billings did work. So we tried to get the most current and most accurate information as to what they're charging.
I think that's excellent, and it's very helpful because it puts it in context. So when you look at the piece that I'm going to bring forward here, which the deputy mayor and I have been beating this drum for some time. So at what point, and if we look at what the average increase that's going through to the other municipalities is higher than ours, I take it?
We didn't do that analysis as to
Fine.
what the percentage increases were.
But okay, let's taking into consideration that at some point, when we look at the potential of the wastewater agreement that we made with St. Thomas, would it not be fair to say that down the line that we're going to be in better shape for wastewater than some of our peers?
Oh, I'll turn that one over to Dave.
Thanks, Alex. I was hoping you would answer that one. I guess my answer would be, I'm not 100% sure about that. From a numbers perspective, wastewater is a variable cost for the most part. So as utilization would increase, so would the cost. The question that I don't have an answer for right now is, does it increase at a 1-to-1 rate, which I'm not sure of.
Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor. So my impression was when we first took office was when it was explained to me from staff that we spent a lot of money on water and wastewater, and our systems were upgraded at a time post-COVID when actually the costs were lower and we took on a lot of debt. So servicing that debt is expensive, but our systems are more up to date than some of our neighbors. So when we're comparing ourselves to our neighbors and seeing that their fees are a little bit lower, our systems are actually in better shape. So as they have to start spending money, this has been my interpretation of this. So correct me if I'm wrong. As our neighbors start having to spend money and upgrade their systems, it's going to cost them more money today than it did in 2017. So I guess I'll leave that part there. But then I also like this chart that we have up on the board. The total annual additional fees, is that similar to, say, when we get our hydro bill where it says debt recovery? I'm curious, when I look at ours, if we actually had that broke out and people knew how much the water was, how much the sewer was, like the sewage was, but then also how much money we were spending on paying off our debt on that system, it would kind of bring some of that in tow. Like you look at Middlesex Center, their fees are equal to the wastewater. So I'll leave that at that and let you guys answer that. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Alex can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the annual additional fees with some of the municipalities are storm sewers.
Well, there's a summary as to what those fees are on there. But when you're talking about the infrastructure for the different municipalities, correct, we are in a good position with our infrastructure. When we went through the water wastewater rate study, it kind of showed the life cycle costs of it. It's hard to tell from these because we're not involved with their systems as much as with our system. So there can be forecasted costs here that we don't see. When you look at our long-term capital needs here, we don't have a lot of pressing capital needs, especially on the wastewater side, and even on the water side, we're in pretty good shape. The only pressures in terms of costs are growth related. We're not experiencing significant water main breaks, sewer backups, failing assets at our wastewater treatment plants. We're able to maintain because we've made those significant investments into our infrastructure, and we can look at some of the other neighboring municipalities here that we know of, just even in Elgin County, that are experiencing some pressures, especially on their wastewater side. So you're going to see these move. They're always moving targets with us, but I think in the long term, you look at another 2 to 3 years here, we should be pretty stable with the financing that we have. For the debt and how the money's spent. In previous water, wastewater bills, there has been pie charts that just gone out, show basically how your money is spent on the budgets there. So they have done that in the past. I'm not sure if they'll do that again, but that's maybe something we could take back to look at, because debt servicing is a major proportion of cost to the wastewater system for that. The plant expansion, both plant expansions did cost a lot. Belmont's plant is coming off. It's going to be paid for, but we have some major rehabilitation works that need to be done to that facility in the coming years to do some repairs and retrofits to that facility. The Port Stanley facility, we're just maintaining it. There are some expensive components in there that have annual replacements on them, but it's just a matter of operating it. If we had to expand the plant there, that wouldn't be anything that would deal with rates. That would be developer driven, because right now the plant has the capacity to service the existing community and will continue to service the existing community.
Thank you. Follow up, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor. And then as we look at this chart, if you look at the right side of it, you can quickly see the difference in density from the right to the left. That obviously increases the cost when we're running water lines and sewer lines a longer distance, and having smaller systems that we maintain with less users on it. That part just kind of makes sense.
Correct. And when we look at some of the development applications that we're seeing here from the developers are telling us to make it viable for them, they need to increase the density on it. And that kind of matches to the provincial policy statements that we're seeing. So we're starting to see higher density residential developments happening in the community, which is a good thing, because that means less pipe, but more users paying into the system, which is what we need.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. Just one more. And then my other thought process is, if we had $75 to $85 million go into the system that we didn't actually have to finance or come up with, that amount of money should actually balance and lower our costs. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but if like with our arrangement with St. Thomas, where we're bringing on that sewage capacity, it's $75 to $85 million. So as that comes on, that should actually lower our cost, because that's infrastructure that we don't have to pay for. It's included in our contract with the city.
I'll let Dave speak to that one.
Okay, thanks, Alex. I think you're right. Like when you're looking at total volume on a per user basis, I don't see any decrease to rates, but I think I would reword your statement to say the increases won't be as significant as what they would be in the next 5 years when we start utilizing the plant capacity at St. Thomas, because we're not paying for that extra capital. But that would not translate into reduced rates. They just won't increase at the same rate that they're increasing at now, or proposed increases, sorry.
Okay. Councillor Graham.
I would like to see us return to what we had talked about, our water rates to 2022 rates to offset the wastewater increase. Again, I mean, the same thing as what the mayor had said, always beating the same drum, that the water, there were two things when we came into office. It was water rates and taxes. We've been able to balance the budget a couple of years now for the taxes, but I think if there's any way that we can maintain the water rates without increasing them for the residents this year, I think that's the route to take. And because we are in such good shape with the water, that the return to 2022 rates for water with that small increase for the wastewater would be something that I could get behind, and not really the other way around, though.
Do you have the finances for that, Mr. Jensen? What the cost would be?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Not on a slide, unfortunately, but if you would give me a few minutes, we could, I could probably send this to Delaney and we could have it ready to go here in a couple minutes. Do you mind?
No, it's fine. Counselor Bachman.
Going through the same numbers and I appreciate Counselor Graham's taking care of her constituents or all constituents, but I'm also looking at what does this do to our reserves? Are we drawing it down enough that it's going to impact any future issues we could encounter?
Sir?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so if we reduce water rates, we would be drawing down the contribution to the water reserve for 2025. Round numbers, the way the budget is proposed right now, the round numbers, I think we're contributing around 350,000 from excess water into the reserve. And if we reduce those rates, then of course that contribution to reserve would drop.
Deputy Mayor?
Through you, Mayor, I think the one really good thing is that with a lot of hard work with the staff, we've done a really good job with our budgets without having any negative effects to the operations. I just kind of worry with some of this other process with the water, wastewater, that I want to make sure that what we're doing or what we do in the future does not have negative effects on our ability to provide.
Counselor Graham?
I think that, talking about, just like we did in the last finance committee, when we were talking about having some benefit to our land being taken by St. Thomas and the money that we were given.
We've had these wastewater studies. We have to keep up our reserves. It's going to be what, $3.33 a month. That's 11 cents a day more for people to pay. That's not that much. And I think we're taking care of our infrastructure going forward that way. We have to look at the big picture here for everybody in the future. Thanks.
Okay, we'll bring up the proposal from Councillor Graham as soon as it goes through to that computer, which. Heard a beep. Did someone receive a file? I guess the only trouble with us viewing it this way is the public won't see the file. We could post it otherwise. Okay, maybe the public can see it then. Okay. Okay, well, let's hope that that's the case. And could I ask the committee to have a look on your email, and there should be a file sent from myself, please? I think we're good. Hey, Jeff. Jeff, do you have it up on your screen? Good. Okay, we have confirmation that it is showing for the public, so I think when the committee is ready, just give me the nod and we'll go through it. Okay. Make sure that's the one. Okay, sorry for the delay, folks. So the document you have there in front of you, just to go through it quickly, is the average monthly consumption is around 11.8 cubic feet per month. Horizontally, you can see the water with the base rate and the per meter charge. The next underneath of that is wastewater, and then per month Going vertically, you can see 2023 rates. That is what's in the 2023 and 2024. So that's what we're currently charging. The recommended rates for both. So that's out of the proposed budget. So you can see there that water, for example, there were no changes, $3.18. Wastewater, there was the increase to base charge from 40.84 to 44.17. The alternative, so the alternative was Councillor Graham's suggestion to go back to 2022 rates. That's not quite clear on that, but that Excel spreadsheet was for me, not for you folks. But the alternative is going back to 2022 rates for water only. So there you can see the blue highlight is 11.8 cubic meters consumption. The 2022 water rates are reduced to 32.31 base charge with a 3.26. There is a slight increase there on variable charges. Wastewater, we kept it at the proposed 44 and 285. So that's the proposed. When you look across the bottom there, that's where we tie out to the dollars on the bottom row. So for those residents that are paying for both water and wastewater, 2023 rates, they're paying $148.30 a month. Again, that's an average consumption on 11.8 cubic meters. The budget, the way that it's proposed in the budget, would increase that to $151.63, and that increase is representative of wastewater increase. The alternative, moving water back to 2022 rates, would lower the monthly bill to $148.58. So nearly a break even just by doing what we did. For additional information, I thought it would be interesting to see what your true break even is. So that's the last two columns. You can see there, leaving wastewater at 44.17 plus 285. We could change the base rate to 32.03, and that would equal exactly 148.30 a month. Or we could leave the base rate equal to 2022 rate at 32.31 and reduce the variable rate just slightly to 3.24. It's not a perfect break even. It's off 4 cents, but that gives you the numbers.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so at the bottom here, just so that I'm clear, we have the recommended at 151.63. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes, that's what's in the proposed budget at 151.63 per month.
Okay, and then the alternative is 148.58.
Yes, and that's accepting the increase proposed on wastewater,
Okay,
but decreasing water to the 2022 rate.
right. Okay, so, and that's about $3 a month. So that keeps that puts the wastewater up by $4 and, or whatever it is. What's the total? Norm's been doing it by the day. And puts the water to the 32.31, which is the 2022 rate, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the will of council? Or that's not council yet. It's going to council. What's the will of the budget committee to take to council? Councillor Watson?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Just the recommended from staff with the increased wastewater rates, keeping the water rates the same for 2023. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Graham?
returning to the 2022 rates to even it out with the increase in the wastewater charge.
Councillor Bachmann.
I would stay with the recommended from staff. I just have an issue with drawing down on reserves. Every time we draw down reserves, it's like a shell game. We're saying, hey, there's no increase, but we're drawing down reserves. So there is an increase because we're taking away from money we have set aside. That's just how I see it.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor.
I think we go with the recommended. I think that's the safest route.
And I'm supporting Councillor Graham, so that's 2 on the one side and 3 on the others. The committee will take the 3-2, which is the recommended to council for their consideration. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. The other item on the agenda, I think, to go here also is respect to George Street. It sounds like we're going to be putting that forward, moving it to 2026 and looking for somewhat of a temporary solution for 25, because I think that staff recommendation is that we might be putting in some work which would be better off waiting because of construction, which I think the committee for the most part agrees with. Is that fair to say that that the committee, the will of the committee, if you will, to put that off to 2026? Councillor Bachmann, Councillor Deputy Mayor, Councillor Watson, sorry. What about you, Councillor Graham? What are your thoughts, please?
Yeah, if there's an alternate solution that can be worked out for the safety of it.
Thank you. I'm going to support that. I think we, to support the councillor and her ward if there's anything that can be done in the interim, but I don't think we want you to have to dig twice. So if we can put that off to 26, that takes a little bit out. And I mean, it's only 12 months. Councillor Watson, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to maybe Mr. Brooks. Could we maybe buy a temporary 5x10 concrete pad with bollards for safety concerns for kids that they could stand behind? If that would quell some concerns of the constituents down there?
I'll just jump in, and I think that we'll have the budget to do something if that's fair, but happy to have anyone answer, just that we'll get staff to look into a temporary solution as we look to a permanent solution, a little bit like what we're doing at Little Beach. Is that fair, Councillor Watson, Councillor Graham, everyone else? Okay. The other thing is that I think you've done excellent work here when it comes to these stats, right? And this should be a working document that we have at all times, because every year when jurisdictions put up their rates, the other piece to break down is we've got the extra charges and all that kind of stuff. So as we look to this, to update this, I mean, we're right now in the top, or shall I say the bottom 3, but to your point of them all being very, very close. I think that what we need to show the ratepayers is that how it will continue to even out in such that if our place right now is 3rd from our neighbors, and we can show with some practical financing of what it would look like in a couple of years, and if there are investments that we've made that will pay off, that we can show them a little bit. I think what they're looking for, if I may, is that they want to see sort of a longer term plan. So if we have a longer term plan that shows 2 or 3 years down the road and what we do with that, and maybe considering what happens as other jurisdictions look to increase their rates for things like storm sewers and stuff like that, I think this is a great document to have, and one that would be great to let everyone know about and make as transparent as possible. So I really appreciate that. So I'm going to need to move. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor. I think it's important that everybody knows that we have been doing a much better job as far as communication with the information that staff put forward and the stuff that the council is doing, the decisions we're making, even as simple as the delegation that we had at the start of this meeting. That's all possible with the communication that's coming from staff and through council. So I think as the mayor was saying about water and wastewater, as we share more information with the community, it creates more of a partnership and they know more and have an understanding of where we've come from and where we're headed. Thank you.
So we have a proposed request or whatchamacallit, a motion, that's it. And I'm going to need a mover and a seconder. It's got to do with the directing the Director of Finance to prepare a final report. Councillor Bachman, Councillor Watson, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Councillor Watson, that the Director of Finance Treasurer be directed to prepare a final report regarding the proposed 2025 municipal budget, including operating, capital, and water and wastewater rates, as presented for council consideration on March 24th, 2025.
All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. A mover and a seconder for adjournment, please. Councillor Bachman, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
Mayor Sloan, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Bachman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Noble, that the Finance Committee meeting dated Monday, March 17th, 2025 be adjourned at 4:03 p.m.
All those in favor? Opposed? And we're adjourned. Thank you.